Welcome to Life Beyond B.S, where we ditch the belief systems and the bullshit and get real about life. Here it's about awareness, choice, and creating joy that actually lasts. No perfection, just honest talk and powerful change. I'm your host, Heather McNally, and let's get into it. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to offer a quick content note. In this conversation, we discuss suicide, mental health struggles, grief, and some difficult life experiences. These conversations matter, and they can also bring up emotions for some listeners. Please listen in a way that feels supportive for you. And if at any point you need to pause, step away, or just reach out for support, please do. If you're in the United States and need immediate support, call or text 988 to connect with the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, available 24/7, or visit 988lifeline.org. You matter. Thank you for being here. And now let's get into the episode. Hi, friends, and welcome back to Life Beyond B.S, where we go beyond the belief systems and, the bullshit that holds you back in life. I'm Heather McNally, your host, and I'm so excited today to introduce my new friend, David Chametzky. He is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, podcast host, producer, growth coach, mentor, and philanthropist. He is the founder of On the Path LLC Mentoring. David is the producer of the coaching and mentoring curriculum to assist you to find time to soar on your path and to find resources for empowering personal growth and resilience programs. He is the creator and media host of Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, a globally recognized high-ranking podcast focused on resilience, personal growth, healing, and authentic human connection. That's why we connected. And I want to say thank you so much, David, for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. And the more that we've gotten to know each other, I'm so glad that we were connected.
Yeah, same here. We're definitely very aligned. So glad actually David reached out to me because we're in a group together, and immediately it was like, oh, okay, I think we need to talk. So, David, I literally just spoke on your platform recently.
Mhm.
And you had an event, and it was the Phoenix Rise. And the entire idea of the Phoenix rising from the ashes is just so powerful. And it's actually been so much of a thing for me that I actually have a tattoo on my arm of a phoenix.
You showed us, yeah.
So, yeah, so I want to start there. Before that rise, and having this platform and having your podcast and doing all the amazing things you do before the TEDx stage, before all of that, who were you and who are you at your heart and soul?
Well, who I am at my heart and soul is Uncle Dave. I'm. It's a persona, not. It's who I am though. There's a story behind that. When I was a recovery coach, every February 2nd in New York State, we make a trip up. People travel to the state capitol to talk to our politicians about receiving funds to help people in recovery with recovery disease. And so I'd gone up there one year, actually one of my first years, and I brought up a bunch of people. I drove up, and we were in a senator's office, and they're all listening. They're telling stories about loss. Their children who have passed away from overdose and other things. And after a while, you could see the senator's staff sort of check out. And I was quiet for a little while, right? It's a intense meeting, so you might be thinking of something, but I see when they really check out. And I interrupted the meeting. Some people would say unprofessionally. I just was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to focus a little bit differently why we're here. Now, the
Mm,
woman who was telling her story, I did interrupt, and I made up with her afterwards. She was like, I just need to tell my story. I go, I will listen to your story, but they're about to exit us out. Let's talk to them about why we're here. And she was quiet. She was sad. And,
mm,
I apologized for that. And I did make time for her. And that was where, people started seeing that who were the other people that were in the room. And when they walked out, they were like, "You're Uncle Dave." I go, well, "What does that mean?" I was I'm like, as somebody was saying, you don't want to be called Uncle Dave in a lot of places. I'm like, yeah, but not me. I'm Uncle Dave, and
Mhm.
tell me what else you think I am. I'm not that Uncle Dave that you wouldn't want to talk about. I'd be the Uncle Dave who really is, I don't know if you have any aunts or uncles, but that one person you could tell anything to. I can't tell mom and dad, I'm in trouble, man. Uncle
Mhm.
Dave, come help me. Uncle Dave,
Yeah.
that type of thinking. And that's what I did that day. So that's how I got that nickname. But that's who I am. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not always polished. I'm always going to tell you what I think. Don't, the worst question you could ask me is, hey, buddy, what do you think? Be prepared to hear what I think.
I love that.
But it's also the biggest, heartfelt person that I am. I love showing up for my people. I
Mm,
really show up 100% and not always visually. Like people are like, oh, you're a speaker. You love to everything to be about you. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm
mm,
happy being in the background. I'll give you the messages that need to go, but it doesn't have to. It's never about me. Even when I'm on stage, I hope that the message I give educates somebody to do something differently, not to just tell you my story. That's entertainment. So that's really who I am,
mm.
is just that person who shows up and loves to show up for people.
I love that. And I will say, I feel that a lot of true speakers, that's what they are. They're a message and they're just a vessel for that message. Like they love to connect with people and everything, but it's a message that's inside you that just needs to come out and somebody needs to hear it. And that doesn't mean you want to be on stage for the attention and the glory. Most true speakers at heart, that's what they are. And I love that. Very, really love that for you. That's awesome.
Thank
So, can we go back and see in your life what burned your life down emotionally, mentally, spiritually, that forced you to become the phoenix, to rise out of the ashes of the flames?
I've had so many things.
Mm.
That's how I became. I mean, so I'll tell you, your audience, why why March, May, whatever, wherever we are. No, why May 11th is my Phoenix Day. I was going through a divorce, and I'm sitting there not feeling so great about the circumstances around the divorce. It wasn't my choice, but I was going through it. And at that time, I had a 3-year old and a 1-year old, and my heart was breaking. I was at
Mm,
this conference for women, and just trying to figure out what to do. And the conference was great. Heard some amazing speakers. First time I ever heard Madeleine Albright tell her
mm.
story of the Holocaust, and
Wow.
the wonderful life that she had lived by traveling, and the impact that she did. And Geraldine Ferraro, also very impactful. It was a women's conference, so it was yay woman, and I had 2 girls, so I kept on thinking about them, but I wasn't really feeling that well. It Going through divorce is not easy, and it was hard to breathe. But what I did is I started looking around because it was a women's conference. I was like, my girls have to be in a room like this at some point. I have to be the father that needs to be there for them, to get them into rooms like that, bring them into the opportunities for them. They might never want to be in a room like that, but at least to be that strong woman who can stand up. And that was it. And once I made that decision, I made that decision. So what does Dave have to do? Again, not playing a victim. And there's times I have played a victim in my life. Things do happen to us. I've had lots of challenges in my life, but not to let it go. That's where the Phoenix came out of. Hearing that Maya Angelou poem, Still I Rise, and I
Mm.
kept on hearing the Phoenix within me to get up out of my ashes at that moment. And from there, I just kind of ran with it. I was, you know, learned that I had to go live a life different than I might have planned, not really the way that I planned. But then there's also the power of the Phoenix. Once I've learned the power of the Phoenix, most people, because in the movies they talk about the Phoenix dying and coming back to itself. But as I mentioned yesterday, there's a lot more mythology behind it. That it doesn't ever die.
Mm.
So yes, it turns to ashes. So we assume that it turns to die, but it's still alive. It's still beating, just much differently. And the
Mhm.
spark of God, and I always question people, do you feel you have a spark of God? You just have to sometimes get it. We've all been
Mm.
there where I don't know how I'm going to get through today. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And once you do it, there's a spark, right? There's that decision we make.
Mm.
The God given, I don't know. That's up to you and your faith. I'm not here to push God on you. I believe that there is. It's a universal strength that comes in and says, no, not today.
Mm.
And that's really what the Phoenix moment really turns into and how it grows out of what we do. So it's those type of situations. I mean, earlier in my life, I lost, what I at that time was the love of my life. And I uh kept, I didn't know that about survivor guilt. So I've lived through survivor guilt because I told this girl to go to a party that she went to. She was doing everything right. Uh, and she was walking on the sidewalk, and somebody who was drunk came
Mm.
to take her from us. And
Wow.
I didn't know that at 19 I was going to carry for another 30 years survivor guilt. Didn't know some of the decisions I made and why we do things. That's the BS, right?
Yeah.
What we need to get through, but we don't know because a lot of people give the advice of you'll get over it, better things will happen and all those things. But sometimes we still need to go through what we go through or don't know what we go through. It's like the grieving process. I thought I had been over it.
Mm.
And every now and then I would talk about Sandy and get upset, but I didn't know that I was grieving also because I felt guilty for
Mm.
it. And I found that out during the pandemic. I was reading some old poems that I had written and just sitting it with myself, and all of a sudden I burst out crying. It was uncontrollable, and I was like, "What the hell happened here?"
Mhm.
You get hit out of nowhere. So there's a lot of things that we do that have that, and those are those Phoenix moments. I mean, just recently, last month, I had another Phoenix moment, which I didn't know was going to happen. I had a heart situation. I was watching Good Morning America, listening to Sam Champion talk about you need to check men especially, and he's well fit. Uh,
Mm.
and he said, he went to a cardiologist for a checkup. He was feeling out of breath, and he had two blockages.
Mm.
Like, man, that's serious. So didn't, I was watching while I'm laying in bed and I Googled, health cardiologist, Massapequa, where I live, and my health insurance. And I found this one doctor who had a 3 o'clock appointment that afternoon. And from there, basically in 2 weeks later, I found out I had a very serious blockage with a widowmaker. And, I said, well, don't worry about it. I'm single. But the widowmaker and any of our other organs, arteries, don't care if you're single or not. 98%, I needed to go get a stent. And that is a real process of like growing up. And while I didn't take it as serious prior, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. It's a stent. It's not that serious. But then the answer goes back to, is there any minor brain surgery? Is there any minor heart surgery? When you're laying
Mhm.
on a table and you're seeing them, I've watched, I'm a big medical buff and love watching those surgeries on YouTube or in one of those medical shows. It becomes like a whole lot different when it comes to you and you start seeing them in your heart. When you're
Mhm.
feeling a pressure because they're in your heart, that becomes a completely different experience. I have to tell you, and hopefully nobody has experienced that, but I know that there are plenty in your audience that have or know somebody like that. So
Mhm.
we're always going to get Phoenix moments. It's how we decide to do it. And that's how you and I have connected. So,
Mhm.
me adjusting through whatever Phoenix moments, and somewhere in the middle of that, there was a suicide attempt 6 years
Mhm.
ago. So there's a lot of Phoenix moments in our lives, and I've learned now how to manage some of it instead of it keep being a roller coaster and then the floor drops out on me. It's more about a easy balance. and knowing how to handle it a lot better than I ever had.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot there. Okay. So first of
Oh,
all, so grateful for you being okay and having, thank you, Sam Champion, for getting out there. And, sometimes people say, well, why do you watch TV? Why do you watch this? Why do you watch that? Well, because you never know what you're going to learn. And learning is so important in our lives. It helps keep us young, it helps our brains, but also something like that. And I've heard a few stories about like somebody was watching somebody on TV and they saw something in their neck, and next thing you know, they get a message and they go and get it checked, and it turned out to be some kind of tumor. People learning information about that and becoming informed is power. So grateful for that for you. Glad that you caught this and you were able to handle this and become more aware. And I think that part of the whole Phoenix thing is the Phoenix rises. It always rises. And so we can take anything and everything that we've gone through in our lives, learn from it and grow from it. And even the most horrible experiences. I lost my mom. She was only 69. She dealt with a terminal illness for probably about 10 years. It was a tough road, but I learned so much from it. So, do I wish my mom was here? Absolutely. But
right.
did I look and learn about choice and grit and resilience and grace and everything from that? Absolutely. And I take all of that and I hold on to it because
100%. It's not
everything
only
you
the
go
bad
through.
things. You
Yeah.
learn something from everything. A Phoenix moment.
Yeah.
My TEDx. So my TEDx was the first time that I spoke about my suicide attempt publicly, and
Hmm.
I truthfully the video and some of the comments, because we have a lot of keyboard warriors, were
Hmm.
unkind, right?
Mm.
But I don't take that. To me, that's a Phoenix moment.
Yep.
One, I did something that people aspire to do, right? That was something I always aspired to do for myself. But
Hmm.
guess what? I also heard from families about suicide attempts, and I was able to work with people because of that video that people make fun of. And I'm like, I won because of that. There's
Right.
good things that also happen, right? I know you're a mom, the birth of your children. I mean, while there might be some pain and getting through the
Mm.
teenage years is challenging, or at least for me, it's been. But this past weekend, I had my daughter's graduation from
Mm.
college, and man, all of those negative things. This was another moment to watch her really step out into herself. So
Yeah.
Phoenix moments are not only the ashes, it's taking that next level, because the
Hmm.
beauty part that we also don't talk enough about, what the Phoenix is, the
Mm.
beautiful bird of colors that then it sings well, it uses
Hmm.
its voice. And the really magical part is when you start doing the research, there's a phoenix type bird in every culture. It's not just
Mm.
Eastern philosophy. I've gone to look at it. There's a bird in Judaism. There's a bird like that in Greek studies. There's all over has a bird, because we all want to take it to that next level. And that's
Hmm.
the beauty more about, it's easy to say rise out of the ashes. It's hard to rise out of the ashes, but it's
Hmm.
also missing half the Phoenix's story.
Yeah. And I think also when you look at the ashes, instead of saying, well, some people will burn things down in their lives, right? And they'll maybe do it on purpose because it doesn't suit them anymore. But there's also the shedding of that identity that maybe you once were, and you're rising from that identity into your new identity. Does that mean you're a different person? No, but it means that you have different priorities and you see the world differently, and you can uh I'm into like energy and the vibration of
Yep. Me too.
energy, and you vibrate differently and you attract different things. And so shedding that, the things that no longer suit you and moving on to the next level, the bird flies, the bird goes up in the air and flies and soars. And there is a study also, just when you talk about like birds and bird song. If you go out into nature, and we're supposed to be part of nature, we're not supposed to be trapped in these four walls. Nature can heal you. And listening, there's a study, and I have to find the information on this because I can't remember what it was, but listening to 1 minute of birdsong can actually elevate your mood for up to 8 hours. So
Oh.
birds are a powerful thing.
For sure. I mean, that's why looking at everything and, really, and what's really, I have an exercise that I usually do when I'm speaking about birds or the phoenix.
Hmm.
No, I have everybody imagine a bird that they want to be.
Mm,
And in every room, there's so many different birds.
yeah.
And the personality traits, and some people want to be an eagle and going into that, but there's so many different birds. The first time I did it, I always was afraid that I was going to hint that I was talking about the phoenix.
Mm,
But when I started going around the room and there was an oriole, there was a different reasons, different colors, the
hmm.
beauty, that we're all individuals, but we all knew how to identify with a bird. It's great when we all feel that collective
Mm,
thought.
yeah. It's so beautiful. I love it. So you talk about resilience and growth. When you were in the middle of these hard moments that you've been talking about, did you know that you were becoming someone new through them, or did it just feel like you were surviving?
Well, at each stage it was different because of where I was growing at that point. So the heart thing that happened a month ago, I knew
Mm.
I was going to level up. I knew that day once they brought me into the hospital, once I drove myself to the hospital. I knew I quit my job. I'd been helping manage a company for the past 2 years. I was doing a lot of work, and we were able to shift the company from a company that was struggling structurally and things like that to a very high thriving company. And so I knew it, and it was one of my best friends, and he was like, "No, Dave, you're sick. We'll take care. Don't worry about it. I'm good." And I knew I was up leveling. I mean, even in the emergency room, I asked for my laptop, and when the nurses come in, and my daughters brought it, and they were like, "You really shouldn't be working. You do know you had something very serious with your heart." I go, "I understand. I'm writing a book. This is not me feeling sorry for myself. This is not me pushing and working." I go, "I promise you, I'm writing a book," and I showed them. So that instance, yes, I knew I still have more leveling up to do even now. I know where I'm at.
We all do.
Yeah, but with my suicide attempt,
Mhm,
I didn't want to. I didn't know I was going to level up at all. I just thought
mhm.
maybe I don't know. And until somebody 2 weeks after the suicide attempt called me white trash, called me a mental case, I didn't know I was going to get up.
Mm.
And while I still didn't feel great afterwards, I cried in my car after that verbal attack, but I didn't. I said, no, that's not where my story is going to be. Even when I started reading some of the things a year later for my TEDx, it
Mm.
hurts. I mean, people are hurtful.
Yeah.
And again, the performance wasn't, but the message was. And
Mm.
that's to me is more important.
Hmm.
Not about performance. It's and people are just brave, right? They're all brave, until you walk up to them and go, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" And
Hmm.
when my girlfriend died in my 20s, I knew I'd get up from it, but I didn't know how. And there's so many different pieces of that I don't know, and sometimes you don't know, and that's okay.
I want to thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing all this. I think a lot of times, especially something like divorce, we hear a lot of women's side of divorce stories. We don't hear a lot of men's sides of divorce stories and how hard it was and how we struggled through it. And I think, there may be societal reasons for that, but I love that you're sharing this, that you're sharing your vulnerability. And I want to thank you for that because, in general, I think vulnerability, people sometimes will look at it as weakness, but it's actually really a strength. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's definitely a strength. I mean, it, it's who I am, right?
Mhm.
It's while I'm not happy that I experienced any of that. That's not
Mhm.
wasn't when I was a little boy. I can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah.
But being able to do that, and really, that's one of the conversations I want to have to change society. Is
Mm.
that it is okay. Look, I played on softball teams, into my 40s. And the guys would give me a hard time. They'd be like, "Come on, Mary, stop with you always want to try to talk feelings. Stop with that." Okay, great. Um, I'm comfortable with my feelings. I'm comfortable who I am. It's taken me a long time to get that. I've had a lot of negative talk and a lot of negative self-talk.
Mm,
I've been my own biggest bully as well. So I think we need to talk about it as a society, mental wellness, and men maybe not you know in all over, because it makes people feel uncomfortable, but really
mm,
any mental wellness. Even as I've spoken to a lot of my women friend girlfriends and
mhm,
things like that, and they don't always talk about, it's easy to complain about my husband does this, my
yeah,
husband does that. They do that well, and the same thing on the men's side.
mhm,
um but the real issues, and that's where I really work hard in to do that, is because that's what communication's about.
mhm.
Not only with people in every part of your life, you should have it. That doesn't mean everybody gets the same access to
Right.
your stories, but they do get access to communication. That if you're doing something, I owe myself that responsibility to say, Heather, that didn't feel so good. Dave, and the same thing, Dave, hey, did you really mean it that way? Sometimes you
Mhm,
do. And I've been guilty of, yeah, that's exactly how I meant it. It's a
mm,
stubborn ass at times. But at times I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. You're not hearing it the way that I'm intending on it. And that's been a huge problem with a lot of us. I mean, that's why
mhm,
communication. I'm also so brave doing this, and I don't know if brave's the answer. When I was attempting suicide, I was told I'm supposed to tell my story.
mhm,
I didn't know what that meant. I don't know. I still don't know what it means at times. I don't know if it's just about speaking, or is it about writing stories? Is it
mm,
helping people get their stories out? I don't know what that means, but I know that I feel better when I share my story. I take the power away from those who might have been like, oh, this happened to you. Yeah, those happened to me, but it becomes a lot more powerful
yeah.
when it's not only what happened to me, it's a stepping stone to who I become now. That's why I always say, if you knew me a year ago, you probably don't know me today. If you knew
Mhm.
me 5 years ago, you definitely don't know this guy in front of you right now.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel that's my life story right there, is that who I was as a teenager is not who I was in college, is not who I was in my 20s. I've evolved all the time. I didn't understand what I was doing in terms of evolving, in terms of the way I spoke to myself and changing things that I did. I understand it now because I've taken the time to study up on brain science and understanding gratitude and understanding self-talk and affirmations and all these things. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I was changing myself little bit at a time without understanding why. And now knowing the why gives it so much power. And so, yeah, sharing your story is everybody has a story, but some people have a way of explaining their story so that other people can learn from it and can take that message and apply it to their own lives. And we all go through the crap in our lives.
Right.
And, you know, it's not fun to be in it. It sucks sometimes to be in it. It feels horrible sometimes to be in it. But if you can look back and say, "Oh my God, this is what it revealed to me, and
Mhm.
now I've grown from it because of it, and I'm using that as a message," that's power. And so to all the people who, I'll be honest, I have had suicidal moments. I have had deep depressions where I was like, I say that I was in the bottom of the spiral and I couldn't get out of my own way. And I was made fun of publicly by friends um, who no longer have a place in my life because I recognized what was going on eventually. It took time, but I learned from it. Absolutely, I learned from it. And I think if they're not learning, they're not growing because of it. And that's going to stunt their life and they're going to be stuck in those places. But I'm not letting myself be stuck. And I love your story. I love that you're sharing this. And I have two sons who are now young adults. And I taught them to be emotionally intelligent and that it is okay to cry. And you may have people that are going to make fun of you for it, but it's going to be a strength in your life. Do you feel that this sharing has become that strength for you?
Yeah, sure. Because I've taken some of the errors that I've made
Mm-hmm.
away from people. I've taken the pen out of their hands and told my story.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody has their own story. And believe me, I know I'm a villain in other people's stories. I'm not about to
Aren't
say,
we all?
yeah, right. But that's okay. I know
Yeah.
for me to be my most authentic self, I mean, that's what my podcast is all about, right? It's about
Mm-hmm.
peace, love, and that bat, right? The bat
Yeah.
is not about violence. It's
Mm-hmm.
about being authentic today,
Mm-hmm.
bringing awesome thoughts. That's what the bat's about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my power comes in, is
Yeah.
by telling the story. You think that mental wellness is everybody experiences it. We don't admit it. So, thank you for sharing that you
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. You didn't participate. That's great. I hope you never do, and hope you know that I'm a resource.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use our resources enough as a society,
Right.
but it really is the power of knowing what the level of our stories and what we
Mm-hmm.
need to do. So for me, I'm like, okay, even when I look back at my stories, I don't look at it in a painful way. I look at it in I needed to go through it because I needed to learn the lesson that
Mm-hmm.
was presented to me.
Yeah. And is the bat that significant for you because you played softball? You were using like a bat was part of your life, right?
Well, yes. So baseball, I love baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But the bat also teaches us so much. Baseball could teach us so much about balance.
Mm-hmm.
So when you hit a baseball, I don't know, have you played baseball?
As
Only
a
kidding.
kid.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But it teaches you balance. If you're too far
Mm-hmm.
ahead,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have the balance, you don't have the power behind it. Same thing, too far behind, when you're swinging, you just don't make it the right way. But when you hit your sweet spot, man, you did the best you could. That doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean it's going to be a home run. That doesn't mean it might be a line drive to the shortstop, is my example all the time. But if I know I did the best I could do, the results don't always matter. If
Right.
I did the best, that's where I say go down with your guns blazing,
Mm-hmm.
because use all of the abilities that God gave you to do that. And that's where am now, with all of the abilities, that the random stories, the 30 years in corporate America, the giving the golden handshake on the way out. It's all those little pieces of stories that become more powerful, that somebody needs to hear that story.
Mm-hmm.
And just know that it's going to be okay. It's not going to feel good every day. And that's no matter what you do.
Yeah.
You always hear me on a podcast. Oh, this guy's always up. Nah, call me on
Mm-hmm.
a Thursday at 2 o'clock, and I might be the guy who's like, man, the world is, Chicken Little, the world is falling apart.
Yeah.
Um, and I allow myself, but now I don't live in the ashes
Right.
going back. I don't, if I notice I'm like looking around and there's ashes around, all right, then I have to move. I have to
Mm-hmm.
decide what went wrong. I mean, I've given up a million times. I'm famous because that was some of the language that was used in my family of origin when I grew up, my parents. I'm done. So I've been done a million times, but
Mm-hmm.
very few times in my life am I really done. I'm
Yeah.
done for now. It means I need a break.
Yes.
That's what we need to know and understand, that it's okay to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be comfortable in not getting the answers you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I say this all the time that it's you. I used to call my business Simply Live Positive. And that was because I wanted to focus on the fact that you can find a positive in anything. Now, it was never meant to be that toxic fake positivity. And that's why I changed my business name because I didn't want people to look at it and think I was saying, oh, she's one of those people that just says, "Oh, everything's okay, just get over it." I don't believe in that at all. I believe that you can find the positive in anything, but that you have to feel whatever you're feeling and then get through it and come on the other side. And an emotion lasts 90 seconds unless you let it last longer. You need to take the time to go through what you're feeling and feel it in your body, but you need to walk through it and get to the other side of it. You can't live there. You can't put roots down. So you don't want to live in the ashes. You're not living in that negative space. And the people who live in the negative space can never get out of their own way. And trust me, I was one of those for a long
Yeah,
time.
guilty as charged. Yeah.
And the more negative you put in your brain, the more it's looking, and that's just how the brain functions, is looking to prove you right. So whatever you're feeding your brain, it's got a filter called the reticular activating system that's going, yep, we're going to prove her right. It's like a woman who gets pregnant, or, everybody's pregnant all of a sudden. Somebody who goes out and buys a new car, whether it's new or new to them, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. It's not that everybody went out and bought that car that night. It's that it's what your brain is looking for. Oh yeah, there's another one. So the more you say what I used to say to myself, you're a piece of crap. Nobody cares about you. Nobody loves you. Nobody likes you. I kept proving it to myself. And I found the people that were vibrating at the same level that kept proving it to me also. The more you start to recognize, oh, that's why affirmations actually do work. Because
Right.
somebody might say, oh, well, I can't believe that. Oh, I'm a millionaire and I'm the CEO of my own company. Okay, well, you don't have to start there. You can start with, like, I'm a good person and I treat people well. Because the more you tell yourself that, your brain's believing it, then you can start spiraling up into the next thought, into the next affirmation. So, yeah, the things that happen to us are powerful and you do have to feel them, but you use that as fire, as fuel to get to your next level.
100%. And I always, on an affirmation, if I don't really believe it, I go yet.
Yes.
Yet is a very powerful word because it's a promise to yourself that it just hasn't happened yet. You haven't
Mhm.
figured out the way to do it yet.
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that. So, you have done a TEDx talk. You now step onto stages. You create your own stages. You've stepped into leadership. What were the things that you had to tell yourself or stop telling yourself to get up there on that stage?
oh, yeah. So I'll give you the example of yesterday, right? So that was the first virtual thing I put together.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the stories I tell myself is I can't do it myself.
Mm,
I did do it myself yesterday. I ran the show by myself, but I didn't do it all myself. I don't want to take credit where
mm-hmm.
credit is not. Right? I had mentors and messages that I had gotten. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Mike Duffy. So I don't know if anybody knows Mike Duffy. He is like the YouTube king. He has
Yep. I
YouTube
am
University.
YouTube famous. Yep.
Yep, I am YouTube famous. So he made me YouTube famous.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it's learning what I needed to do.
Mm,
And that's really everything's been a step. So even my TEDx talk, when I look at it, I don't like the performance, but I'm also a much better speaker now than I
mm,
was then. So there's a lot of pieces to sometimes you have to go through stuff that to learn who you are. I know what people need to do. I mean, there was I think Ed, even though he's been a speaker for years, some of those stories was the first time he shared it publicly yesterday. So there's a lot of pieces to that I want to make sure that people who want to circle around me and those messages, they have the opportunity. I love helping people get that sparkle in their eye, that story to get out there and do that. So, while yesterday was my first real step as a producer of shows, other than my podcast,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to do that more because it was
Yeah,
great.
it was.
I found the right people. It was great telling the stories, and for the most part, people tried to educate a little bit, and that's all I can ask is let's educate. And there's other ways to do it. And now that I know that I could do it, I don't, I still will lean on Michael, but I don't need
Mm,
me. It's to show myself what I need to do. So it really is. I've always been a leader, even when I'm not tabbed. hey, you're in charge, I'm always going to speak up to what I need to do. I'm going to try to raise the team together. Um, and that's really what it is about showing up because we all get overwhelmed. And
Hmm.
I've let the overwhelmness shut me down. And now I'm not letting it shut me down anymore.
That's fantastic. And one of the things that you said, and I love, is you did this yourself, but you didn't do it yourself
Correct.
because there's mentors and there's people along the way. And that's one thing that I think that people love to say is like, I did that myself. And take on the pride of creating something and having your idea come to life. But at the same time, we now nobody does anything completely alone. We've learned from other people. We've grown because of things that we've gone through, because of other people. We have other people teach us things and we teach other people things. And that's the beauty of what you did pull together was that we all shared a story that we've gone through in our lives, but you brought us all together. You brought this beautiful platform for all of us to be able to share and then connect behind the scenes that we can help each other grow. And I just loved that. And I found one of the women that spoke. I looked her up. I was like, oh, I'm going to send a friend request. I did with everybody that was there. But I found out she only lives about 20 minutes away from me.
Yeah,
And I
that's
thought,
the
wow, this
beauty.
is great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the beauty is when something like that comes, right? It's the universe
Mhm.
saying these two people have to be together.
Yeah.
So you guys might have met because of that
Hmm.
experience, but everything that you do is yourself. But that's a butterfly effect for me,
Yeah.
right? Because there's this saying I mentioned yesterday: you save one person, you save the world.
Hmm.
And if I could pass on one message that might change on a life or the opportunity, and then you and Kaylee build something that has nothing to do with me, is beautiful because that's why I needed to be there.
Hmm.
Well, we're in the exact places where we need to be. It
Yeah.
doesn't always give us the results we want, but
Right.
being in those places and learning that power becomes something completely different.
And that brings up a great quote that and I'm sure lots of people say this, but one of my mentors has said is life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, in terms of speaking of what you're doing and what you brought together with everything that you're doing, the podcast, speaking, mentoring, philanthropy, creating your own stages, what do you feel that your real mission is?
Writing books, man.
Mm.
Helping people with their message and
Hmm.
their collateral. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that, it's not just what you carry, it's making sure that Heather's ready for a stage, you know, with a line message and polished, and then having that ability to what it really comes down to. Everybody thinks they could do it until they're
Mm.
given that opportunity.
Yeah.
Again, I'll use my own example. I, didn't know I could run a company. While it's
Hmm.
a small company, but it was a substantially, revenue generating company, and I didn't know I could do it. I just knew I had been put in a lot of different positions. My friend gave me a chance. I mean, it was his company. It's
Mm.
his baby. He protects that more than anything else in the world. But you could do it, and knowing that you're going to make some mistakes. So that's what I love doing is the alignment. I love when I see a sparkle in somebody's eye
Mm.
I'm doing some ghost writing, and they're like, "How did you know? That's what I meant." Like,
Mm.
I just know.
It's just your
No,
talent.
getting that story out. I think using our stories in so many ways is such a powerful, powerful thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was watching Oprah 100 years ago, I think it was, one day, and she did this thing where she had a map up on the stage and she threw I don't know if they had darts or whatever up on it. And she's like, everyone has a story. So anybody close to this particular location, or maybe it was that she had the audience mapped out and she like threw the dart. I can't remember. But like I said, it was 100 years ago. And it was like, okay, this person, this is
Yep.
who it is that's supposed to come up here. And she pulled the story out of them. And that's the beautiful thing. Stories are meant to connect us, but they're also meant to help us. Sharing your own story helps you heal. sharing your own story helps somebody else understand and heal as well. And that's
100%.
so powerful. So, what would the version of you from 20 years ago, looking at who you are now and the stories that you share and the impact that you're making, what do you think he would say if he saw who you are today?
Who is that guy? It really, so that's mid 30s. Mid 30s
Mm,
is when I was going through that divorce. I didn't even think about public speaking. I didn't think about the impact that I could possibly have. I was just looking to get through the days. I was looking to just have a nice life. I was excited for so many things, and um, didn't know at that point. I didn't even know really, how cool being a dad is.
mm,
I didn't know about the Uncle Daveness in me. So that's why we go back 20 years. Um, and I don't know where I'm going to be in the next 20 years. I
mm,
can't wait to experience and be able to live the legacy. That's the one thing now I'm warming up to, that I'm really building a legacy electronically that people can see. So that way my future generations, I can live that way. Um, I don't know, but the person who I was, I'd love to meet him again and try to
mm.
give him that advice that I know now. It's all going to come out fine, and that don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, that's so incredibly important. And that brings me to resilience. You have grit, you have resilience. And I think a lot of people misunderstand confidence. I think a lot of people think that you're just born with it. And when you're a little kid, you don't know any better. You're living life, you're trying to figure out the world. But as you grow through experiences and you grow through this life, you're still here, right? You learn from everything you go through, and everything you go through gives you a story, gives you that resilience because you're still here, you've gone through it. Now you can see that maybe the fear of going through something tried to hold you back, but you made it. And that's how you build confidence. You do. Confidence just doesn't come because you sit around and think about it. It comes because you do, you get through it, you survive it, you own it because you have to look at your story and say, look what I did. What do you think that people misunderstand about confidence and resilience?
You have to be really prepared to do something really bad for a while to
Mm,
get really good at it.
yeah.
There's nothing that you could do that gets you past that 10,000 hours.
Hmm.
And you think about 10,000 hours, oh my God, and all that stuff. You just have to get good at anything. Anything that you're good at, anything that you do, and that includes being an adult, right?
Hmm.
The things that my 20-year-old thinks she's, fully cooked yet, and where she would be in maybe another 10 years is a different cooking. And we
Hmm.
all need some sort of cooking. And now I'm at that point where I probably still need some more cooking, but I now know the fine tune, right? So again, when you're making things as a kid, you might make it in big, broad strokes, but
Hmm.
now it's the fine tuning. And there's a magic in that as well, is knowing where to put that stroke is, because
Hmm.
that's what the knowledge is. It's that generational wisdom that hopefully
Yeah.
you've learned at some point. Because if not, you just keep living the same year over and over again. And
Right.
I'm not about to do that. I might do some of the things that I've done, but this time I'm doing it with a little bit more gravitas.
Hmm.
I'm doing it a little bit more with an educated. So again, with going back to my health situation, they're like, "Well, you really got to focus on this. You got to." I go, "It's already done."
Hmm.
What do you mean? I go, "Now it's a choice." Not that I didn't know Big Macs
Yeah.
weren't good for me beforehand, but I now know what the results could be,
Hmm.
and because of that, I had carrots and celery for lunch.
Hmm.
Those are the things that we do to take us to that next level.
Yeah, and it's very powerful because awareness is it's the beginning of everything. When you become aware of a situation because You saw Sam Champion talk about, heart stuff or whatever this thing is that you need to become aware of. And, everybody says, and I've said, awareness brings choice. But there is another step in between there, I think, and it's awareness, but then you have to acknowledge it. You have to
You
own
have
it.
to do the actions. You have to,
Yeah.
again, it's the knowledge that we have. Knowledge is great, but
Hmm.
if it's only knowledge and you're not learning how to apply it,
Yeah.
that doesn't do anybody any good.
Yeah. Because you can become aware of something, but nothing happens without owning it and then taking the steps. I can become aware of something and it can just sit in the back of my mind and nag at me forever. But if I don't own that and say, all right, yeah, I'm aware that, but now I have to own the fact that, well, maybe I didn't treat this person well, or maybe I said something I shouldn't have said, or whatever, and then make the choice to do something about it. Without all those steps, you're stuck in the same old position. Yeah. So, do you believe that people have to completely fall apart before they can transform?
No,
Yeah.
you just have to be open to looking at things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, people have a lot of fear about things, about being different, about letting go of something because they're afraid of stepping into this next person, the next version of themselves, the next thing that they're going to do. And fear is truly just our brain trying to keep us safe.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh, nope, you don't need to do that. You can stay here and you're going to be okay. We don't know what the next step is. So, has fear ever held you back?
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
fear has held me back for most of the things I've done in my life.
Hmm.
So, that's one of the things is still holds me back. I mean, I'll be really honest, but it holds me back a lot less than it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say fear is a liar, and it definitely has held me back in so many situations. And now that, when I've conquered the fear, and conquering the fear, it takes bravery. Yes, it takes taking those steps. But when I have conquered the fear, I'm like, wow, look at what I learned. Look at who I can become because of it. Look at where I can go because of it. So what do you feel like when you fear something and you know that it's fear that's holding you back? What are your steps to go, I'm not going to let this stop me anymore?
Well, I look at why I'm fearful. Right. So,
Hmm.
what is this? Same thing as when I get angry now. What is it triggering me? What's happening that really sets me apart, that changes some things. So knowing why I'm fearful, like, hey, I'm still fearful of heights. So I don't
Yeah.
know why I'm doing that, but how do I adjust that differently? I've done that at times where I'll walk to the edge of a cliff
Mm-hmm.
just to combat it differently.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different things.
So I want to ask you my final question that I ask everybody. What does living a life beyond BS look like for you?
Constant growth.
Yeah.
No matter what we do, just constantly growing is really what it is beyond the BS
Mm.
is really changing my belief systems
Yeah.
and of a growth mentality is I could do it.
Hmm.
While I don't know, and sometimes it feels heavy, I have to figure out a way to make it feel less heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for being here with us today, David. This was a great conversation.
I thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, so much for sharing this space with me and David today. My hope is that you walk away knowing that you have the power to choose differently. Go live fully, freely, and unapologetically. Your life beyond BS starts now. I'm so grateful you were here today. Remember, your peace, joy, and happiness aren't found in the BS. They're found in your choices. If this episode spoke to you, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe, and share it with a friend. For ways to connect or work with me, check the show notes or visit heathermcnally.com. Until next time, keep choosing you and keep living your life beyond BS.